Well, Jasper, great to have you on the pod. Um, I think we always like to kick off with a bit about you.
Mm-hmm.
So, you've been in financial marketing for over 15 years,
Yeah.
and I'd love you to walk us through your career, your journey to this point.
Wow. Let's keep it nice, short, and sweet, right? So I describe myself as a financial marketeer that really likes to sell things that are being perceived as boring or too difficult. So I always say I'm not selling a fancy car. I'm not selling Ferraris. I'm selling either a pension product or I've sold business insurance to small businesses in the past. So that's not sexy. That is, but it's necessary. So that's been my career, especially since I've moved to the UK in 2009. So at Pension B, solving a pension product, or solving a pension problem, and offering a pension solution. At Simply Business, before Pension B, building a business insurance solution, helping small business to buy insurance just online rather than go to like a dodgy office somewhere in the street.
Mm-hmm.
That was revolutionary at the time. And before that, I was more of a marketeer at my own marketing agency. You could find me optimizing websites for a beauty salon in Amsterdam or running a pay-per-click campaign for Art Rotterdam, an art fair that we run years and years ago. So lots of different things. But since I've moved to the UK, very much a financial marketeer. I think I found an area where I feel like boring is great. Let's just get my hands on it.
So it's really interesting because you had your own digital agency, like you said, working with beauty salons
Yeah.
or art magazines, and then, as you put it, into more boring industries. So,
Yeah.
what is it about marketing for pensions, for insurance, that really motivates you, like gets you going?
It's not the actual product that I'm trying to glorify or to make look sexy for somebody, because no matter, trust me, no matter how attractive you make a particular product, you would still, as a consumer, think that's too hard to touch. I don't know where to start. This is too difficult. Let me sort this out on a Sunday when it's raining. I need to take this seriously. But you'll be watching Netflix instead. So when I start to realize that I'm actually not competing against a competitor in my sector, whether that's another pension company or with insurance, another insurance company, but you're actually competing against Netflix. You're competing against inertia. You're competing against attention you actually need to get people on top of that product. So I think for me that was an aha moment, and that excites me. So bringing emotion to a product, how does pension bill make you feel, rather than here's a pension product, here's a brochure.
So it's not actually the products on offer; it's the brand, the ability to differentiate by the brand that
Yeah.
you build against inertia, versus this is insurance product A versus insurance product B, for example.
Yeah. So, for example, at Simply Business, we were bringing the kind of compare the market for small business insurance to UK small businesses. Of course, they will do the comparison. Of course, they will look at quotes. But there's always a couple of things that do people actually buy? Getting a policy, or at Pension B, they might think, I need to get on top of this stuff. But actually downloading the app, adding your pension information, all of that information, which is a job on its own. There's a couple of things. Well, first of all, make it simple so people feel it easy to understand. But you also need to tell them what's the reward to in the end. How does it make you feel when you're on top of your old pensions that have been scattering around from previous jobs? You get them together, they're all in one place, you suddenly have a balance, you can see how it's performing, you can add contribution in a few clicks. I will stop the Pension B plug now. But you know what I mean? That excitement you can build, like this is what you will get. This is the rewards. How does that make you feel? So I think when you are starting to look at solving a financial issue, because there is a problem with scattered pension pots, but the way you solve it and the way you make people feel and the kind of outcome you give to people, that's what's exciting. And that's also what's dropping your cost per acquisition, because you can see it in the numbers straight away.
So that's an interesting point, that relationship between cost per acquisition and the simplicity of the product, etc. And this is the aha moment. This is what you get. Could you just talk to that point a little bit more in relation to campaigns or brand building more generally?
Yes, I think there's been two moments in our pension bee journey where we've made some, I'd say, a crucial decision that had a real impact on, well, customer growth and also the cost per acquiring customers or the lifetime value per customer. One of them was that aha moment that adding emotional layers to your proposition or AKA messaging really started to make a difference. I remember, and it was around COVID time, a big brand campaign where we suddenly had floating people on billboards and on television. These were real customers, and don't let pensions weigh you down, or that feeling when your pensions are in one place. People started to float on billboards. That was the first time we really started adding emotion to that. We also were using real customers, real testimonials, real, like, this is what happened when I got in control of my pensions. And I let them float on billboards. And suddenly there was an emotional message. And we saw, once the billboards were up and the television campaigns were up, that, never an instant result, but in those months following, our cost per acquisition started to drop. I felt like I could spend more on paid search or on other more performance channels. And actually we got getting more people signing up against the same budget, higher saturation point. That was a real aha moment. And since then, we've been going with the pension confident slogan, so to say, on various campaigns. We always use real customers in advertising. That was a real aha moment. How does pension bill make you feel?
So that was a strategic decision to bring the feeling of using pension bee to the forefront.
We've learned that was something we ought to be using. Hence, we went nuclear with that principle. But we already tested that earlier in the market. But also, pension bee was growing, marketing budget was growing. And I saw diminished returns on my acquisition channels, aka you can just inject more money into a pay-per-click campaign. But if it becomes more expensive to acquire a customer that way, then you reach that saturation point. And by just invest more in brand, and especially on that emotional message, we simply saw that we were able to invest more in certain acquisition channels while the CPA remained under control, even dropped. Same with email marketing. Suddenly we got better click-through rates on our nurture emails. So you can see how that has an effect on all of your mid and lower funnel channels.
But there was a bit of a time lag with that, right? So
always
maybe
a few months.
Initially you sort of saturated the performance channels. Then you went with the strategic decision to bring the feeling of pension bee to your brand.
Yeah.
And then later on you went back to the saturated marketing channels, acquisition channels, because you had that feeling of brand.
We will continue to use those marketing channels. It's just that they started to perform better because you were investing on brand. So top funnel brand, you invest. A couple of months down the line, you start to see all of your mid and lower funnels performing better and better.
And is that a common pattern that you see?
Yes.
Okay.
That's just how it works. And I think what the danger I sometimes see with especially some fintechs I've been working with over the years, and just generally with startups, is there's a funding round, let's invest in brand, let's get instant results. Oh, there's no instant results. Oh, it didn't work, stop brand investing. Actually, investing in your brand is something you have to do over time. And as long as you see the signals that a particular message or proposition is working, so your performance channels over time start to do better, as your prompted brand awareness you measure every quarter starts to grow, there's a direct correlation to it. So when you stop investing in brands, initially nothing changes. Your performance channels perform really well. Over time, it starts to get worse. And cost per acquisition on performance channels start to creep up because you have not invested in that brand message on top of funnel. So
Interesting.
it's the first thing often brands cut back on when things are tough, but you are setting yourself up for failure on the long term. So you've got to make sure, no matter how tight budgets are, have a healthy spread between what you invest in the brand and what you are investing on more acquisition or lower funnel related channels.
Okay, so that's a common mistake you see early
Yeah.
stage
Yeah.
fintech startups that maybe are direct to consumer, is that they don't invest in brand, or they don't give it enough time to invest in brand.
Yeah, and because they don't measure the brand investment, the effect it has on your lower and mid and lower funnel channels. If you don't measure that properly, or you don't see the effect of, prompted brand awareness goes up, PPC, paid social, and other costs are coming down. If you don't see that, then you can also don't see that when you stop investing in brand and your prompted brand awareness start going down, maybe suddenly those acquisition costs on lower and mid funnel are going up. And I think that if you see that, then you can start tinkering with your channel mix.
At which point do you say, okay, we've invested in brand quite a lot and it's not having an impact on our acquisition channels, let's rethink the strategy, or not stop investing in brand, but maybe deprioritize the spend there?
Well, at PensionBee, we haven't done that, made that decision, because we could see, I think, if you can set yourself up in a way that you can measure the impact of a brand investment on your other marketing channels, then you will start to see the difference. I think what the only difference I would make is there's a difference. So with brand investment, your brand awareness can go up, but if you don't then see more people signing up, it would be really good then to dig in terms of, are people actually trusting you more? Do they see, I've heard of PensionBee, but I would never consolidate my pensions with them. If they say that in a brand survey, then you know you've done something wrong with the messaging, or something else in the product might not be right. That's a different problem you need to solve. But when you are investing in a brand, what you hopefully see is, I've heard of PensionBee, prompted brand awareness, tick. But also you need to ask the question in the brand survey, are you looking to consolidate your pensions in the next 12 months? Are you considering PensionBee? And if you measure that a few times a year and you see notable differences in those questions, you're either doing a bad or you're doing a really good job. And if you're doing a good job on those questions, you should start to see that in your mid and lower funnel appearing. Your cost per acquisition should drop if the other indicators are right, for example.
Okay, interesting. I mean, bringing it back to PensionBee, you joined them when they were six people, and now they're a listed company. Beyond what we just spoke about in terms of brand building, the importance of that in relation to acquisition channels, are there any other lessons you've learned over that period, that rapid growth?
I think there's a couple of things in that journey, because it's been now 10 years. And you join when there's 5 or 6 people, and now we have a couple of 100 people and 300,000 customers. So I feel the responsibility, by the way, to help 300,000 people with a good retirement.
How many customers, may I ask, when you first joined?
Zero.
There
was only a few lines of code written. I think I joined in September 2015, and in March 2016, I think we welcomed our first customer. So that's been a really interesting journey to be on. Now, a couple of things that we've learned along the way is, especially when you're small, it's really hard to build trust. Would you trust a startup with your retirement savings? I wouldn't. And I'm the marketeer. So that's a bit of a problem. So how do you fix that? So building in borrowing trust factors from other brands or organizations was key from the start. So your money is invested with State Street and BlackRock. So your money is in experienced hands.
So with partnerships to bring you that credibility.
And still, by today, your money is invested with State Street or BlackRock or HSBC. So it was always about making sure that people understood that their money is invested in experienced hands.
And just on that, with a State Street or BlackRock, were they also apprehensive to work with a startup, or they don't have any opinion on that, or how does it actually work practically?
I've not been by the initial negotiations with BlackRock and State Street, but what I can tell is they've been trusted strategic partners from the start. State Street actually became a minority shareholder in 2018. And as we went to the US 18 months ago, they are our only strategic partner in the US. So all of our state pension B plans are powered by ETFs from State Street. So we've been on a journey. So I think the trust was very much there from the start, but I've certainly been able to use their build up trust. They're one of the biggest and the best money managers in the world. So your money is in experienced hands. Your money is 100% protected by the Financial Services Compensation Scheme without upper limit. And I can go on with, so borrowing those trust elements from other organizations is key. Using real customer testimonials from the start. Again, it's one of those things. I can tell you how great we are. Let my customer tell you how great we are. So I think that was one lesson learned from the start, is that you need to build trust. You need to mature in that trust building as quickly as you possibly can. And then stay true to one product and do it really well. There was a problem to solve. That was, I've got pension pots scattered all over the place, and providers are making it really hard to consolidate with paper forms and telephone calls and jargon you don't understand. Let's solve that. But you will be distracted by, let's also offer workplace pensions, or let's also do this. And before you know it, you spread yourself way too thin because you've got a small team. So if you're convinced that you are solving a particular problem, stick to it. Even if you might not see results instantly, just stick to it.
Were there moments where you could have branched out?
Yeah.
And you decided not to?
ISAs or lifetime ISA or workplace pensions, or there's a plethora of products available. And even people, also suppliers and maybe experts from outside will say, well, the only way for you to grow is to diversify. But we always said, like, this is a particular problem that a lot of people have, and we've got to solve it. So we stuck to it and made sure that it's really easy to consolidate your old pensions into one plan. So we stuck to it. The way we did it, though, and also the reasoning for people to solve it, that did change over time. So stick to a solution, but definitely try to change or tinker with the solution if you know what problem you're solving.
I guess there's some fundamentals which stay the same, like borrowing the credit of a big brand like State Street, for example. But what changes in the product or solution as Pension B scaled? What did you see or not expect to change in the product?
The biggest change for us was we started to offer to consolidate your pensions. And before you then picked your Pension B plan, we would then gather all of the information from your old pension plans, performance, fees. We would search for them. Well, it turns out people know where their pensions are. So if you see any advertising these days about companies offering lost pensions, some people will have lost them, but actually the vast majority of people, they know they've got some stuff and they probably have some paperwork somewhere. So they haven't lost track of it completely. It's just that it's the exercise of bringing it all together. That was the actual problem they had, not where are they? So that's one. Second, offering a snapshot with fees, performances. Actually, our conversion rate was not that great from people signing up. We're doing all of the hard work for those snapshots, and then they consolidate. Why? Because again, you're giving them lots of information to think about. Most pensions are pretty similar these days. So bringing them together in vast majority of cases is a really good thing to do. Making it easy, get on top of it. So once we've took away the whole snapshot with all of the information and we just let people combine their pots, suddenly the conversion rate went up. And we were like, so we were just solving the wrong problem then.
How did you get to that? Because you're looking at conversion, you're thinking we're giving them all this snapshot, like showing everything and it's not quite working. How did you get to people just want to consolidate it?
Yeah. First of all, your customers will tell you. So we are still talking to customers. We still have a feedback channel that is in our Slack channels and we can see what feedback comes in. So you know something might be off or something needs to be changed.
How do people access that feedback? How do customers access that Slack feedback channels?
Well, we ask everybody for a Trustpilot review.
Mhm.
There's various points in the journey where people can leave feedback.
And it comes automatically into
Yeah,
that.
we all feed it into the
Interesting.
Slack integration, so we can see what's going on. And of course, we've got a team, especially now, we've got a team that collates all of the feedback we get back every month. And then if there are certain themes arising, then our product and customer teams can go on top of that and say, okay, we've got to address this. But I think I think we were solving the wrong problem. And then when we saw that and we changed the product in the sense you could just sign up and get started, people actually trusted us enough that we were going to offer them a plan that was suitable for them. And there you go. We've got a default plan. Instead of just you picking from the plans, people don't necessarily have to choose. They can go into a default. And for, again, vast majority of people at their age group, that's probably the right plan. So without giving any financial advice, by the way, it just makes common sense to do. And then you can see your conversion rate goes up and so forth. So it's interesting. You still have the same problem, scattered pension pots, but the way you offer the solution can be different when you know why people want to do it.
And then when we look at differences between the UK and the US, do the same learnings apply in the US, or is it just a completely different market?
Well, first of all, it is a completely different market. Americans generally don't save for retirement, while here in the UK, most of us now, if you are employed, have a workplace pension.
They don't save in the US predominantly for
Not every
retirement.
employer will offer you a 401k, which is the workplace pension equivalent. And if you do, when people leave employment, they can actually cash out their retirement savings for a small tax penalty of 10%. So if you got to pay your bills or you got to pay your groceries, people will just cash out. So I would say, don't want to generalize too much, but Americans generally live in the now and not necessarily think about tomorrow. So there is a retirement problem in the US. So that is definitely something that's different from the UK. The problem, though, often is the same. They've got scattered 401ks that they want to roll over into a pension B IRA, an individual retirement account. The words are different, but the problem and the solution is very similar. It's just that a lot of people might want to roll over and take the money now because they got to pay groceries and their mortgage, etc., which is sometimes very hard to see from a personal standpoint of view, that people have that financial hardship. But the problem is the same. And I'd say in America it's even worse, where you have to phone your old provider to do a rollover, and they will send you a check in the post, and you have to forward that check on to us, and then we invest it for you.
Super archaic.
There's
right?
red flags everywhere, like what if you lose the check? What if you forgot the check? And then suddenly all of that money is just not invested for retirement for a long time.
And when you think about brand building in the US, do you follow the same strategy or tactics that worked in the UK when you were a 6-person team, launching into new markets, or do you build off the credibility of the UK brand? Like, how do you approach brand building in the US?
It's pretty much from the start. Americans do not generally like a non-American brand to advertise about finances. So let's say if I suddenly use the Union Jack flag, right, on Times Square, like, we are bringing a UK retirement solution to the US, and Americans say, yeah, oh hell no, let's not do that. So for us, it's actually not bringing that to the market. What we can do is say, over 300,000 customers globally trust Pension B for their retirement savings. We manage X amount billion of dollars of AUA for a happy retirement for our customers globally. Those are kind of nice numbers to have. So I think in that sense, we're using our track record that way in the UK to build trust in the US. But other than that, it's very much a different approach. That's from a messaging and a channel mix.
So there's the State Street example that you gave. Does that also help, as it did in the UK and in the US? Yeah,
it's crucial. Like we offer ETFs powered by State Street, and Americans typically know who State Street is. They do
Mhm.
not know who we are. Our brand awareness is pretty non-existent at this stage. We're just getting started. But everybody knows State Street. So knowing that the money is with State Street is a massive help.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
they then, so that hasn't changed. And we probably doubled down on that trust element.
And how long have you been in the US market now?
We started in August 24 with our
Okay,
first
quite
customer.
quite
And
recent.
we've been pretty much building a product and testing the product. We've just had our first, I would say, proper brand marketing campaign live since this September 2025 in 12 metros, and in 3 of the metros also, on out of home and radio.
Mhm. And when we look at our favorite topic, regulation and
Yeah.
compliance,
Yeah.
between the UK and the US market, for example, are there stark differences, different processes you have to go through, things you have to prepare for when you're launching these campaigns?
Yes, so in the UK, you work with the Financial Conduct Authority guidelines on financial promotions, guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
And in the US, you're working with the SAC rules of financial products. So I think that's a key difference. I think there is interpretation in the UK on some of the guidance, and we always try to keep a conservative way of following the guidelines from the FCA. In the US, you pretty much have like pretty set rules. So that's a difference. It's more of a black and white situation in the US, I would say. In the UK, there's room for interpretation.
And recently we started working together.
Yeah.
But before AdClear, what was the process for the UK versus US? Did those rules versus guidelines mean there were stricter controls or processes you had to go through in different markets?
We've got the same setup for approving financial promotions. So typically make sure that there's enough training and also refreshers throughout the year. Once a financial promotion has been produced, it will go through an approval flow, which typically involves me or anybody else who actually test the guidelines or the rules of financial promotions. There's a tone of voice check. There will be a brand guidelines check. There will be conversation. There will be a trail of commenting. And once that's actually then approved, then we will make sure it's being logged and stored safely. So and then a few times a year, our compliance team will actually revisit a random set of promotions to see if the rules and guidelines were applied properly. And the same we will do with our tone of voice and brand guidelines. Can't use pink, so etc. So I think that is the process, and we try to keep it as similar as possible, because some of us work in both markets and some of them only work in one market. So we've got global roles and local roles. So just keeping that as simple as possible is key. And we were quite keen to also keep the process as similar as possible when we actually stopped doing it manually. Got rid of the spreadsheets. Hey. And moving it into AdClear.
And just talk to me about the process now on AdClear and the benefits in both markets of using AdClear.
I think there's a very much a pre and a post AdClear process now. So pre is more creative and just use common sense when you're producing a financial promotion. And then we literally have a status now in our Asana that says it's now in AdClear. Basically, instead of keeping it on Asana, it's now in AdClear. And that's where all of the testing and testing it against rules and regulations, etc., lies. So that's a big difference. But what's really interesting is we still do a lot of manual review in AdClear, but AdClear increasingly helps us to tell us if we are breaching a rule or if it's not really according to guidelines. That saves us a lot of time. Also, it's more accurate. I live and breathe these rules for the last 10 years. And AdClear has actually put my ego at the front door a few times. It's like, no, Jasper, you're actually not really correct here, which is fantastic. So it's just having that extra layer it's made it more accurate, but it's also it's sped up the process generally. And we're now in a system position where we can also now rely on just AdClear alone on some of the kind of like less risky financial promotions. So you can actually start cutting out people in the process. We still revisit those things like randomly to see if that went through well, but actually cutting people out of that process and letting AdClear more rely on those promotions is really cool. And it also, when it's actually going well and it looks like we're doing a great job there now, it feels like we can then also start lifting the limit on the kind of promotions. We just let AdClear decide rather than us decide manually. So that's a really interesting way how you now look at financial promotions. How much risk can we take by letting AdClear do more of the heavy lifting versus no, I don't trust AdClear. Let us do everything ourselves. And you can see we're now moving towards that. We're trusting AdClear more.
And that's speed, efficiency, trust, doing something you couldn't do before. What impact does that have on things like the bottom line? So downloads, people signing up, brand building. Like if you're trying to associate that speed and efficiency with something tangible, what does it mean for PensionBee?
So there's two areas where we see the benefits at the moment. One of them clearly is efficiency and accuracy. So what we're doing is actually better and faster. Fantastic. The other one where you can see it is the teams are, it opens up the possibility to get some stuff done much quicker. So instead of saying, oh, I have to go through the process and it will take 5 to 7 business days, potentially. Now it can be, especially on social, I've just shot this video on TikTok. Let me just pop it for AdClear. And if I can get an outcome within 10 minutes, I can actually post it. That's your ideal outcome. And what does that mean is you're becoming way more agile in terms of delivering messages. So you will probably be more successful. I can't tell you at the moment how successful that is. I can only tell you that we've been more efficient, we've been more accurate, and I think we are sparking more creativity within the teams to be their best on their marketing efforts without being constrained about, I have to put it for financial promotion. And as a result, the cadence of posting has gone up. I can really see it in America, actually, where we've got a very small team and they are able to post a lot, especially since we've now been able to push things for AdClear.
It's great to hear. I mean, obviously one of the reasons we exist is because of the rise of generative AI and the technologies available now. If we look within compliance, but also at a broader level at how AI is impacting financial services marketing, being someone been in the industry for a while and seeing that change, where would you say it's having the biggest impact on your day-to-day and sort of bottom line for PensionBee?
AI has an impact definitely on some of the efficiencies. I'm a well-paid marketeer, so I cost a lot per hour. I still have to do certain tasks that I can perfectly execute, but you can start asking yourself, is that actually worth my time and money? Not sounding like a diva at all, just common sense. Same for other colleagues in the team. So if AI helps you to execute on some laborious tasks that just have to be done, but a lot quicker or just instantly without my interference, fantastic. So I think in that sense, that's where I can see the big shift. It's definitely good for ideation. I think it's doing a really great job at the moment for us to identify common customer clusters of customer behavior, rather than me thinking about which segmentation do we apply to our customer base. Actually, AI is increasingly telling me by analyzing our database if there's any particular behavior arising that we can address as marketeers. So we get much more of a personalized message across to our customers. So that's another area where I really think, okay, this is beyond just efficiencies. This is actually really helpful. What I don't want it to replace is the creativity and the out-of-the-box thinking. I also feel like there is an added benefit as marketeers. Like, how do I cut? How am I different from the rest? Any great ideas I can bring into production. If we lose that and we let AI run its course, we get a lot of very similar campaigns. But also, it's going to kill our ability to be successful in our jobs in the future. And I think that's a sparkle in your brain that you do not want to lose. Like, I still very happily write an article from scratch. Also because I think it's important for me to keep doing it. If I lose the ability to write an article from scratch, I think I'm dying. Like, I don't want to do that. So I think that's where I don't want to develop more into. But in other areas, it can really help us to be more successful.
Do you think there's a risk, especially with the young generation, that this is just what they're used to? So that creativity, especially in marketing, does eventually die out, or we start relying on LLMs and AI to push us? Or do you actually think people will see that as an opportunity? If everyone's going to use AI and LLMs, I'm actually going to purposely write my article, my LinkedIn post without touching AI, because I know that's more authentic. And how do you think people will respond to this new sort of technology?
I really hope people using AI for the right things to speed up their work and delivery. Fantastic. But don't ask AI to write a complete go-to-market plan and then without checking if there's actually some gems or some channel mixes that might be completely out of the ordinary, and that's why we should be going with it. So dare to question the outcome of anything you use with AI, and make it your own. It's that make it your own ability. Maybe if you don't want to start from scratch, maybe that's maybe where we are heading. But it's make it your own, make it unique. Use that creativity piece. Dare to challenge an outcome. I think is don't take it for granted. That is what I'm looking for in any marketeer we get on board in the team. I want them to use AI, but I don't want them to use that sparkle. And and unfortunately, you see that quite a bit. Like, I'm always compare it with, do you use a calculator now to make simple calculations? In the old days, we did. And then suddenly we start using calculators, and that's absolutely fine. So you get to a number. But it's about what does that calculation do in order to drive you forward. That's where I see AI as well. It helps you to get you to a certain point, but it doesn't tell you how to be successful, accelerate, or to reach the next level. You still have to do that.
It's a fine balance, especially for new hires, right? Like when someone applies for our AdClear, we can see, often we have an Airtable and we'll just see the responses to our questions, and we can see the first line of every response to the question is the same because they've obviously put it into an LLM. And it's actually the ones that don't do that we progress, right? And I think at the other end of the spectrum, if someone isn't using AI in their daily work, they probably are behind other people that do. So there's that balance. It's interesting when you mention hiring, because I think moving forward, it is a skill people will have to learn, but they can't rely on it.
Yes, and also they can do everything in AI, but if you then have a conversation with them, there you go. So you still have to make it your own. You still have to make the subject matter your own. You still have to excel with it. And I think that's where you will start to see quite a few people struggle, and people who use it wisely, they will excel.
Back to Pension Bee. What's next? What are you excited about? Anything you can mention that hasn't been widely circulated?
So what I'm excited about is that we're going to launch a new app in the new year. So why is that so exciting? As a customer, you think, okay, fine, you've updated your technology. Well, this is a whole different kind of technology. It's a hybrid app. So for the first time, our native mobile app and our web app will be one experience rather than two experiences. So it will help us to roll out new features more quickly. It solves a lot of issues, but there were some known issues that we can solve. But generally speaking, we will be able to develop our product quicker. And it's smoother, it's lighter. So love that. It also allows us to introduce potentially new products next year. And I'm not going to tell you which ones they are, but we've got some stuff in the making, which I'm really excited about because I can see how I can put that on the billboard. So that's definitely on our minds. And expect more from the US. That's, we've established our product now. We're building it out. We had a billboard on Times Square, which I felt as a marketer is always a very nice thing
Yeah.
to see. And we're going to double down on our advertising next year with Pension Be a Better Way to IRA campaign. And the other thing from a marketing perspective is we've also going to roll out a completely new advertising campaign in the summer that is really a departure from what we've been doing for the last 5 years.
In the US or in the UK?
In the UK.
UK, okay.
Yes.
Nice.
Which I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Okay.
But we're working with a new creative partner on that. Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to working with them as well on that campaign.
The Brentford sponsorship's continuing though.
Yes.
Good.
So again, this was a pivotal moment in our business. Why would you advertise on in a football stadium? Brentford Bees, Pension Bee, Mansion Heaven, very good for top line brand awareness. It really shows in our brand awareness figures. When we launched this partnership, it was very obvious.
When did you launch the partnership?
In 2021.
Okay.
So, long story short, they contacted me. And we were very small at the time. And we started small with them. They were in the championship. I signed the deal. A couple of weeks later, they got promoted to the Premier League. Of course, after that season, we upgraded our investment with them. We became shirt sponsor for 2 years. And it's been, again, people don't necessarily make rational decisions when it comes to their finances. So I can create a really nice, slick brochure and information evenings where I offer you a glass of champagne, as some financial advisors do. Or they see you on the train platform with a billboard. Or they see you on a football pitch along on the LED screens. And they think, that's actually a legit company. If they can afford that, they must be good. We all know that doesn't work that way. But that's how consumers work. So utilizing that as a financial brand has been really, really interesting. And since we've done the partnership with Brentford, we've used them in our television campaign, and we've done lots of things with them. They've been a really great partner, and it's been beneficial in building brand awareness, but also trust. Would you want to use a pension provider that's now a nationwide brand?
It goes. Sorry, carry on.
No, and so that's been, again, one of those pivotal moments in the business. Every financial brand should consider these channels. You might think it doesn't sound rational to me. I need to do more information evenings and slick brochures. No, sometimes you need to advertise on a train station, or you need to sponsor a football club. It wasn't on my bingo card when I started working for Pension Bee, but it happened.
But it goes back to that trust point, right? Same with BlackRock or State Street. You're sort of borrowing that trust and credibility of a larger platform or partner that your customers do care about on the consumer side.
Yes.
So zooming out and going back to you, and for the closing questions, if you were advising fintech marketers or early stage fintech startups, what are the pieces of advice you would give both, if you were to give some advice?
Fintechs and startups generally. Well, one of the things we've talked about today is stick to a problem you're trying to solve and just, try really hard to solve that. Don't give up. The way you solve it might be different, but you still want to solve that problem. Don't diversify because you're afraid that otherwise you're not, going to the next funding round. And I know this is very, very easy to say, but try to stick to the problem you're trying to solve. Don't use the same channels as your competitor or your other fellow fintech is using. Try as many different channels. Fail quickly, and iterate. And also don't think one big brand campaign is going to make you famous and solve everything. It's better to have a healthy mix between a brand channel versus your acquisition channels, like a 40-60% split, for example. So it might mean that in the beginning you might have small brand investment because you've got small acquisition investment because your budget is small. And as you're scaling up, try to make sure you are keeping the same energy and investment in each of those channels as you are scaling up. I think I often see where often by investors or funding rounds, we need to show results now, so let's not invest anything in brand. Let's let's just really turbocharge
Mhm.
pay-per-click, and actually your acquisition costs are rising too much, and you're getting diminished returns. So make sure you resist that and build something that's designed for long-term growth.
Great. And are there any questions about what we've talked about, or marketing, AI, compliance, anything that you think should be asked more, or something I didn't ask that I should have?
That's a very good question. You mean not asked generally in the industry?
Hmm.
Hmm. I think compliance is often an afterthought. Um, so when you are doing your first campaign, people don't ask the why. So in order to understand the rules of financial promotions or the guidance, you need to ask yourself, why are these rules or guidance there in the first place? Don't just rely on your house legal person or your house compliance person. Oh, that's something I'm not interested in. Let's just somebody else do it. Ask the why. And when you understand why these rules were invented or in place, it becomes a lot easier to actually apply them and to create financial promotions that are really easy and well to understand. And that's often people don't do that because it's boring, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're in the industry of a very boring thing, which is compliance. But if you ask the why and you take an interest in it, it becomes a lot easier.
And often we see compliance as sometimes sparring partners in that creative process, because they see things differently through a different lens, because they've got a compliance lens versus
Yeah.
purely creative as
Yeah.
well. Cool. Well, thank you, Jasper. It's been very insightful, and I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for being on the show.